It's the only choice for somebody like me who is traveling the world to win this battle. And I believe the time it takes me to get somewhere, I can't sail across the ocean. I have to fly to meet with people and get things done. But what I'm doing almost full time is working to win the battle of climate change.
Okay, that is President Biden's new climate czar and former Secretary of State, John Kerry, defending his use of gas-guzzling private jets to travel the world and collect awards for fighting climate change.
Joining us now to discuss is Chrissy Clark, staff writer at the Daily Wire. We also have former Lieutenant Governor of New York and New York Post columnist Betsy McCoy there, and Dan Eberhart, economy expert and CEO of Canary. Good to see everyone here today. Chrissy, I will start you off here. What do you make of this pushback by John Kerry and the reason why he must use private jets?
Well, I mean, in the rest of this speech, John Kerry went on to say that he uses his private jet to travel to China to speak with President Xi Jinping and make climate agreements with China. Yet China is still the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. So if John Kerry is going to go and defend his hypocritical behavior, he might as well tout something that is actually successful.
So, well, of course, the question of how handling China when it comes to climate will be something that potentially a climate czar will be dealing with once he gets started. Betsy McCoy, I see you're kind of laughing with the situation. Again, this video is from 2019, but still a lot of people wondering, why are you traveling by private jet to begin with? Betsy?
Well, it's not so funny, even though I was smiling. The arrogance, of course, is typical of politicians. I can say that having been one. But the fact is that Kerry's position and his boss, Joe Biden's position on climate change, is really quite dangerous because they're willing to sacrifice much more immediate goals, much more important goals like employment and national security to accomplish what are, in most cases, unverifiable, unenforceable limitations on carbon emissions. I can point to the Keystone Pipeline, for example, or the suspension of drilling on federal lands, or, as Chrissy wisely raised, the negotiations that will be forthcoming with China. I worry that Biden and Kerry particularly will be willing to sacrifice really important issues like the future sovereignty of Taiwan, or protecting our intellectual property, or tariff issues in order to try and squeeze some unenforceable, unverifiable climate concessions from China.
Dan, your thoughts on the whole thing? And, you know, Kerry does say he tries to offset his carbon footprint, his carbon emissions. I'm not sure how you do that on a private jet traveling the world, but your thoughts on that?
Well, you're going to need to plant an awful lot of trees. Look, I think that this is hypocritical elitism at its finest. And again, you know, as both other columnists or both other folks suggested, Kerry and Biden elevating the climate czar to a cabinet-level position and putting this kind of focus on it is really saying, hey, look, we're going to de-emphasize jobs, de-emphasize national security, and being a part of these international organizations and, you know, the Paris Climate Accords, joining the WHO and all this kind of stuff is just so much more important. You know, it really boggles my mind that the America First platform, you know, is not an idea or a concept that both Republicans and Democrats would want, at least at a high level view. It's very, very frustrating to see the eagerness with which the Biden administration wants to rejoin these international agreements, just, you know, for my opinion, for the sole point of the headline, without really announcing the substance. If you read these articles, Google John Kerry, Climate Czar, Paris Climate Accords, and see in these articles what's actually going to change, folks. And you see that there's nothing out there. There's no new specific legislation, specific, you know, thing that they're trying to accomplish. It's this aspirational goal to be part of these international organizations and to virtue signal. They're not doing the block and tackle things to get 2 more yards, to get a first down, to be able to get some incremental progress. And, you know, I think that this is just very, very disconcerting, and it shows a disrespect for American workers and American jobs, and it shows that they're not focused on economic security and national security.
Well, Senator Bill Cassidy shared similar frustrations on Twitter, writing this, saying, "I'm not sure flying across the world in a private jet while simultaneously trying to put the workers who supply your fuel out of a job is a winning strategy as a climate czar." Chrissy, your thoughts on, of course, the future of jobs in the American public? I know that, Joe Biden has said he wants to create all of these clean energy jobs, but are those really available right now when we are dealing with so many Americans who have lost their jobs during the pandemic? Could they sign up for those clean energy jobs if they wanted them?
Joe Biden and John Kerry, this performative politicking is so out of touch. People right now do need relief, and I think Senator Schumer actually made a great point that people do need money and relief right now, and yet all they're focusing on is this climate agenda and pushing that through instead of pushing through any sort of bipartisan support, and it's very frustrating. Right now we're seeing that Joe Biden has performed in the similar performative politicking by talking to Republican members and trying to get an alleged bipartisan deal. But in actuality, I mean, the House is going to push through, as well as the Senate, they're going to push through a deal that they want that is full of a Democratic wish list. It's going to involve, pushing these Green New Deal jobs, these climate jobs that are really not available to people right now as they're just struggling to get by.
Out of time. Betsy, I'll pick it up with you in the next block here. Chrissy Clark, Betsy McCoy, Dan Eberhart, stick around for it. Ocasio-Cortez under fire now over her personal account of the Capitol breach last month. Here's what she initially said.
I run back into my office. I slam my door. There's another kind of like back area to my office, and I open it, and there's a closet and a bathroom. And I jump into my bathroom between these screams and these yells of, "Where is she? Where is she?" And so I go down, and I thought I was going to die.
Well, in her dramatic story about the chaos, AOC says she was in her office, which is in the Cannon building. It's nearby. It's not the Capitol building, however, where the violence was happening. Yeah, a lot to discuss. Our panelists, Chrissy Clark, Betsy McCoy, and Dan Eberhart, join us now to discuss this as well. Betsy McCoy, I'll go straight to you on this, as promised. Your thoughts on this, as she's now being called the Jussie Smollett now, Alexandria Ocasio-Smollett. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's after AOC, always out of control. And the fact is that we should stop giving her so much attention. We on the right, on the left, everywhere in between, unfortunately give her the attention of a rock star, when in fact her biggest fear is being ignored. She wants to bring down this nation. She's a socialist. She disagrees with our system of government, with our economic system, our market economy. And we should simply cancel her out. But instead, we're feeding her with all this news attention, and I hope we will stop it. I get your point, and I understand what you're saying here. However, she does have a huge platform. I think she's got more than 12 million followers online. So when she does come out and make these claims, it is important to sort of do a fact check on it. Whether or not that's effective or people will listen is up for debate. But Chrissy, your thoughts on the social media reach that Representative AOC is able to maintain, and also how important it is to be accurate and factual and not just rely on feelings.
Well, yeah, so I do feel somewhat bad for her in a way that I was there. I live in D.C. I understand the fear that was made there. And if somebody told you that there was an unknown Capitol breach, of course you would be fearful. And so I start to understand and empathize where she started. But it's when she goes factually incorrect and says that people were threatening her life specifically, when in actuality, Republicans and Mike Pence were at way more of a risk than she was. It just becomes performative politics again. She really has a problem right now with the Republican coalition at large, because she has not only said, I'm looking at her tweet right now, that this is manipulation and that she was actually in part of the Capitol complex because there are trains that go underneath the Capitol. So technically she was part of the Capitol building by being in the Cannon building. This manipulation, it's the same thing that she does when she talks about Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. In that same video, she said that the two of them were on par with some of the worst men in America. Those are men that rape women. Those are not parallels that we should be drawing. It's her performative outlook on all of this that, again, should she be silenced? No, we believe in free speech, but at least get your facts right when you're a sitting congresswoman with that big of a following.
Hey, let me just jump in really quick, because one of the facts that are being pushed back against is at one point AOC says that the cops were coming in her door. In fact, one of the police officers, the Capitol police officers, walked in her door, looked at her angrily. Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina debunked that, said her office a couple doors down, there were never police in that hallway. That's why the Smollett thing comes into play. Dan, your thoughts?
Well, I think that she's, one out of 435 representatives, and she, has become very adept at playing this kind of, I would say, performance politics or reality TV politics. But she's one out of 435 people. She's not in leadership, and she gets all this attention. But I think it really calls into question everything else she espouses in her movement when she's, caught dramatizing and being overly dramatic on this type of an issue. Look, this was a traumatic day for everyone involved. I think Mike Pence and several of the Republicans were just as fearful for themselves as AOC was. But she keeps drawing attention for the wrong reasons in my mind. If I was a representative, I would want the attention on me because of, I'm trying to push for, issue A or issue B, or to overturn something or to pass something. And she just seems more focused on this kind of being a congresswoman rather than the policy positions. And to me, look, I'm glad she's not my representative, and this is not the kind of representative I would want. And if she's going to continue to dramatize stuff like that, I think it calls into question, everything else she espouses and everything else she stands for. It makes it harder to take her policy position seriously when she's caught dramatizing something like this. She clearly was in a different building across a different street that was not under attack. And, everyone was afraid, but I don't know they were specifically coming after her. And again, there's 435 members plus 100 members of the Senate. And she makes it out like she's the only person. It's a bridge too far for me.
Right. As we said, anyone has the right to feel how they want to, and of course express that to their online platform. But you just want to make sure that you wouldn't mislead anyone by some of the statements, considering the audience she has. Chrissy Clark, Betsy McCoy, and Dan Eberhart joining us live as our panelists. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thank you.